Before we get started, please go over to Amazon.com and grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice. If you have an African-American son in public school, you need this book because I teach you the many ways that public schools mistreat African-American boys and what you can do to help your son. So go over there and get your copy immediately. So in this video, I want to talk about white male rage. And the subtopic is how the billionaires and the GOP manipulate, monetize, and cause white males to misplace their rage and what we can do about it. So at the end of the video, I'm going to suggest ways that we can actually defeat this Maga movement. So stay with me. Now, a major weakness of our community is we lack a short and long-term strategy. We're always reacting to our opposition. So, unlike many on YouTube, I don't react to everything Trump does for two reasons. First, my firm fights MAGA in court, so I still practice law. Plus, reacting to everything Trump does is a major distraction, and it's intended to be that, as they flood the zone with chaos. Nevertheless, for content creators, it can be rather lucrative running everything Trump does down. Still, I don't do it because I spend my time trying to strategize to defeat Trump. I approach making a video like I'm going to trial, which requires a lot of preparation. So that is the reason why my videos tend to be longer. Now, if a person says, hey, I don't have time to watch a long video, even to learn some strategic points, that person will not help us defeat Trumpism anyway. So we really haven't lost anyone, okay? Now, all that said, let's talk about this white male rage. Let's talk about the technocrats who manipulate and monetize. They actually make money on this white male rage. So white men, especially rural white men throughout America, are angry at blacks, at immigrants, and anyone else who is not a WASP, right? A white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. You've seen it in the streets. We hear it in the news. We feel it in the political climate. But here's the question. Is this rage justified? Or is it being, as I suggested in the subtitle, is it being misplaced? Is it being manipulated? And is it being monetized? Hello, everyone. I got great news. The merch is finally here. We've been waiting and waiting, but we can finally begin branding our channel. But we need your help to get our brand out there. If you like what we provide and like what you see, please go to the channel and grab your hoodie, your t-shirt, your mug, and we got more designs and products on the way. Just visit our YouTube channel at the Defiant Lawyers Network. Also, we will donate a portion of each dollar you spend on our merch towards some nonprofit. And remember, as always, stay woke. So, I want to read an excerpt and introduce you to a really, really good book. All right, let's go now and read some from this book. The name of the book is White Rule Rage, The Threat to American Democracy. It's a very good book. I really recommend that you get it and read it so that you can understand what these authors are talking about. All right, so they wrote, the devastating force of late-stage capitalism has inflicted enormous damage on rural Americans. But we are more concerned with how the political system responded, and specifically, why so few rural Americans have noticed that they've been exploited and lied to by the conservative politicians they elect. Their own leaders deploy a sophisticated propaganda machine meant to ensure that every problem rural America faces will be blamed on faraway forces and people who have little, if any, actual influence on rural Americans' lives. It's the best way to stoke the voters' seething That and telling them the solution to their problems will always be to elect more conservative Republicans who will continue to spend more effort in ratcheting up rural anger than in addressing the problems confronting rural communities. Very powerfully written here. So when urban America suffers from a spike in unemployment or violent crime, the right-wing noise machine quickly points its collective finger at liberals, minorities, and Democrats who dominate cities. Cities, they are told, are both nightmares of depravity and a threat to rural Americans. But when rural America suffers from precisely the same problems, who gets blamed? Well, those same liberals, minorities, and Democrats from faraway, scary cities. Almost daily, hourly on talk radio stations from Maine to Maui, those constituents hear Republican politicians and their conservative allies in the media redirect rural fury toward the boogeyman of the moment. Immigrant caravans this month, critical race theories next month, woke professors the month after that. Though most rural citizens are represented at all levels of government by conservative Republicans, these officials somehow bear no responsibility for their constituents' problems. But Hollywood didn't kill the family farm and send manufacturing jobs overseas. College professors didn't pour mountains of opioids into rural communities. Immigrants didn't shutter rural hospitals and let rural infrastructure decay. The outsiders and liberals at whom so many rural whites point their anger are not the ones who have held them back. And as long as they keep believing that they are, rural people won't be able to find their way to an effective form of politics. Now, that is very well written, and it gets right to the heart of the matter that I want to get to. All right? Now, let's do this. Let's look at this diagram that I created to show you how this works. Now, look at the diagram. It says Trump and Maga strategy. And then beneath that is a scripture. Let's read the scripture. A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. So one can be defeated pretty easily, two can fight back and do okay, but three is the strongest. So here's a three-pronged cord. Basically, white billionaires, the GOP, and angry rural white men. And notice in the middle of this diagram is white supremacy. So this is how they're able to protect white supremacy. And I'm going to use this very same diagram to show you how we can fight back. All right, at the end of this video. So first, the billionaires, what do? They fund the GOP. Now, let me just throw this out. One of the most important things that we need to do is to get a case overturned that's called Citizens United. It allows these corporations, these billionaires, to pour so much money into elections, federal elections. Okay? I'll do a video on that later, but that case is horrible. So they fund the GOP. They provide low-paying jobs to the second group, the angry rural white men. Now, these billionaires have a fiduciary duty to make as much money as they can for their shareholders. So they do everything they can to cut costs, to cut overhead, including salaries, including wages and insurance, and anything else that they can cut. All right? And who hurts from that? These angry rural white men. Nevertheless, as we just said, these men continue to blame everybody but the billionaires. And it's the billionaires who are really their problem. So what is the job of the angry rural white dude? It is to vote GOP. And that's the reason why this past election, white men voted overwhelmingly for one of those billionaires, Donald Trump. All right, we're gonna keep looking at it. And then there's something else that they have been assigned to do, and that is to control others, to control minorities, to control blacks, to control the immigrants. It's almost like the old slave plantation, where you had the rich enslaver, and then he had these bad white dudes whose job it was to control the plantation. And what they got for that was just a few more brownie points, or a little more, white privilege, if you will. All right, so their job again, vote GOP, control the others. And then we come to the GOP politicians. I'll have more to say about them in just a moment, but their threefold job, their three main responsibilities is to cut taxes for the corporations, deregulation for the corporations, all of this help the corporations make money, and foster the white rage that we're talking about. So the GOP politicians are constantly feeding cultural wars or fostering cultural wars and keeping the anger going toward the minority, the immigrant, and so on. So they have worked this system over centuries, and it has worked like a charm. Again, the rich, the ruling class, funding the politicians feeding the angry white dudes a bunch of lies, so that the angry white dudes will not point the finger where it should be pointed, to the billionaires. All right, that is the way Maga works. That's the way the white supremacists did it back in the 50s, 60s, doing Jim Crow, and as well as on the plantation. All right, so let's keep looking at this. All right, so because white men rage again at immigrants and black activists and blacks generally and women and gay people and so forth, they don't look at the people who are actually destroying their lives. And those people are laughing all the way to the bank. And let me say, any white dude who's watching this, I want to be clear. Your frustration is not made up. A lot of white men are struggling. Wages haven't risen in decades. Whole industries have collapsed or been moving to foreign countries. Price gouging, and so on. But here are the people to blame, these people and their rich buddies. They are the ones who are making all the money and leaving you guys peanuts. And by the way, if you think you're getting peanuts, can you imagine the little bit that the African American community has gotten? So that's misplaced rage. And not only is it misplaced rage, you are allowing this to continue. I'm talking about you angry white guys. You are allowing this exploitation to continue while you focus on the wrong people. You focused on the wrong people, and you are letting these people get away with it. It's almost like someone being falsely accused of committing a crime while the criminal goes free. All right, let's go back. Now, what I want to show you, I want to prove my point. The billionaires, the top 1%. If you look at this graph, the light blue line are the wages, the increase in wages that these billionaires have experienced from 1980 to 2013. And you see how much higher it is than the darker blue line down at the bottom, which represents the bottom 90%. Their wages haven't increased anywhere near that of the wealthy billionaire. In other words, you could say it this way. Trickle down has not trickled down. Although your elected representatives have cut taxes for the billionaires and deregulation for the billionaires who have made a whole lot of money, that money has not trickled down to you. They hoarded that money up. They kept that money in their pockets. They grew richer, not you. And that has nothing to do with blacks and or immigrants, right? Those folks are getting away like bandits. Like bandits, okay? So why are you blaming the wrong people? And African Americans and immigrants, why are we being blamed for this? Because the white dudes are not being told the truth. They're not being told that corporate greed and automation and billionaire-friendly policies are responsible for, this big wealth inequality. They're not being told that right-wing media and politicians feed them a bunch of lies and disinformation. Okay? And when I talk about them, I'm obviously talking about these folks, Fox News, but not just Fox News. Okay? Not just Fox News. There are many others. And even some of the other stations, you may not realize it, they too are owned by a lot of these Maga people. Okay? But these, and as well, there are a bunch of social media outlets that feed white males these lies. For example, that the problem is DEI. Why is there such a push against DEI? Because it helps the billionaires deflect what the real issue is. You see? That's why there's such a push. It helps Trump make the argument, I'm fighting for you, by attacking DEI. But that's not going to improve the bottom line of these angry white dudes. They're not going to do any better. They can get rid of all the black people, all the women, everybody else. That's not going to really increase the bottom line for these angry white guys. No matter what lies they're being told. Like the immigrants are taking your jobs, black people demanding handouts, women are getting the great opportunities, and so on. And so instead of fighting their real oppressors, they turn on the most vulnerable, the people who are oftentimes suffering more than they are, actually. These white guys, if you think you're doing bad, can you imagine how bad African Americans are doing and immigrants and so on? Yeah. So these media outlets like Fox and the Daily Wire and Newsmax, those are the ones who are pumping all of that false information, that disinformation to these angry white guys. Okay? And while they're doing it, they are making a bunch of money. For Fox News, it's really their business model. They built their business model on white male resentment. That's literally how they make all the money they make. Right? So all day, every day, throughout the night, they are telling angry white men that they're the victim, that the other people, the DEI, the blacks, the immigrants, they're out to get you. They're taking your jobs. See, this is the kind of stuff Trump talks about. But we'll fight for you. I'm your warrior. And it's all just a bunch of divisive stuff to keep us fighting and to keep us distracted and disinformed so that they can keep doing what? Making money. One of the biggest things that Trump wants to do now that he's back in office are two things, or I say two things, not one, but two things. Cut taxes and extend the tax cut that he already put in place, but cut taxes even more, and a bunch of deregulation. Because that will make the billionaire class, the oligarchs, even richer. Meanwhile, white angry men will get even angrier, right? And that's exactly where the billionaire class want them. They want them to remain angry. In fact, let me play a video where Trump literally says this. Okay? Let's watch this video.
In 2016, I declared, I am your voice. Today I add, I am your warrior. I am your justice. And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution. I am your retribution. Not gonna let it...
You see there? Why is he saying that? He's saying that to keep the white dudes angry and to make them think that he's fighting for them. No, he's fighting for the billionaires. Who was it? Let me go back. Who was it that he had sitting behind him at his most recent inauguration? These folks. It wasn't the hardworking white dudes who are angry. No, these folks, the tech bros. Elon Musk spent millions getting Trump reelected. So no, they're fighting for these oligarchs and not for regular people. Maga has been basically tricked. But they feed on it. You know, when Trump says stuff like, I'm your warrior, I'm going to be your retribution, I'm going to fight for you every day, I'm going to fight for you. No, this is really about fighting for these billionaires. Because what they do is they take real life struggles like job loss, economic anxiety, declining social mobility, and they twist them into culture wars. And again, it ends up with minorities and women, progressives and so forth, becoming the enemies. And why do they do that? They do that to divide, they do that to distract, and fear sells. Right? It sells. They don't want these right-wing billionaires. They don't want, and I don't know that they're right-wing. Let me take that back, because some of them are almost apolitical. They just want in the White House the person who's going to give them what? Tax breaks and deregulation. So they could be progressive, they can be Democrat. Now, a lot of them are libertarian. Okay? They tend to be libertarian. The ones who are with Trump, in their hearts. Because of the deregulation, because, they want to minimize government. They want to keep government out of their affairs, thus the deregulation. Keep government from taxing their money. All right? So they don't want these angry white men to ask a simple question. Why are you making so much money than me? I mean, why? So they keep them distracted, disinformed, and disillusioned. Like a lot of black men, actually. If white men really want to be angry at somebody, they should look at the folks here on the screen. Not people who are doing worse than they, who make no decisions. These billionaires have hoarded up trillions of dollars. It's almost $1 trillion standing right there. It may be by now. Elon Musk, I believe, is worth about $500 billion. And then the other guys. So they've hoarded up a whole lot of money. Okay? And as I showed you in the diagram, the other folks who are partaking in this are the white male GOP politicians. Okay? They play a big role. They're the ones who control the Congress right now, completely. Talking about these fellows. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House. John Thune, the leader of the Senate. And of course, Trump. They play a big role in this as well. As I keep saying, they lie to working class white men daily, telling them the enemy is wokeness and DEI. Wokeness and DEI are not the reason why these billionaires are making all this money. It's not the reason why these politicians are giving the billionaires all those tax breaks and deregulations so that their billionaire puppet master donors can make even more money for the billionaires. All right? So yes, GOP politicians play a huge role in this. And then if they just simply ask themselves the question, what has white male rage actually accomplished? Being mad at blacks, being mad at immigrants, what has that really accomplished? Has it brought back jobs? No. Has it raised wages? No. Has it improved health care or lowered the cost of health care? No. Instead, it's made working class white families poor, angrier, and sicker. So the rage is counterproductive, or at least it shouldn't be misplaced. If you're going to use the rage, use it toward the people who are the reason why you're not getting your fair share. That is not a decision that blacks or immigrants are making. So instead of blaming us, instead of raging at us, right? Instead of hating us, what really needs to happen is there should be the joining of forces. Because we're all in that same boat. You got that top 1%, and then you got the 90%, the rest of us, who are being exploited and played by that top 1%. So yes, it is race and class. For us African Americans, it's largely race, but class plays a big part as well. And of course, the women would throw in sexism. Right? If white men turned their anger toward the real oppressors, then America would change overnight. You know, if I was a politician, if I ran for office, this is the kind of race I would run. I would run on both racism and classism. And the reason why is I grew up in a rural area in the country around a lot of whites and blacks. And while there was, segregation in a sense, I mean, I'm not talking about legalized segregation. We went to school together in my lifetime. Schools where I'm from integrated in my third grade year. Before then, I did attend an all-black school. But in my third grade or fourth, they integrated. So I grew up in an integrated school, and we were good friends. We were friends with our white school classmates. We played sports together. We played football, basketball together, baseball together. We ate together. The segregation actually occurred after we left school. My point is, I grew up with a lot of poor whites, and I know that they struggled just like blacks. But a lot of them still felt like they were better than us because they were still being fed the junk from the politicians to keep us divided. Because again, they know we unite, it's over. It's over. So the question is, are white men ready to stop being pawns for the GOP and the billionaires? That's the question. Or will they keep letting the billionaires manipulate them, monetize their rage, and cause them to misplace that rage? Right? That's the question. Now, what I want to mention here quickly is I promise you that I will tell you how I think we can defeat Trumpism. All right? And here it is. Let's go back to the other screen. Back to this three-pronged cord. I believe we can defeat Trumpism if we can get these white dudes to form allegiances with African Americans, to say to the billionaires that we're tired of you manipulating us. At the end of the day, let's just think about it. At the end of the day, poor working whites, poor working blacks have so much more in common than they have to divide them. And while we remain divided, they keep getting richer and richer and richer and richer. So, the way Maga, here's what I'm saying, the way Maga has peeled off disillusioned black male voters, we should be working to peel off disillusioned white male voters. Because there's a lot of disillusionment out there. A lot of it. A lot of anger. It's misplaced. It's targeted toward us. But we should try to appeal to some of these angry, disillusioned white dudes. The very way MAGA has done us. They have undercut us by tapping into the disillusionment of some African American, younger African American men. We should do the same, especially with not low information white guys, but those who have some education. I think they're more likely to understand what that argument. It's just basically time for you white dudes to stop voting against your interests. You have a reason to be angry, but not with us. Your anger should be, once again, toward these folks. These people. The billionaire class grows richer while everybody else becomes more impoverished. All right? So, that's what I wanted to share with you in this video. How white rural male rage is being manipulated, monetized, and misplaced. And they are the key to the MAGA movement. We need to try to fracture that movement. All right. I am Reverend and Civil Rights Attorney Augustus Corbett. Thank you for watching this video. And until the next time, stay woke.